Hello, everybody. Welcome back for part two to our teaching about understanding dog psychology and communicating with compassion and clarity. And so for part two, we're gonna start going a little bit a deeper dive into something that a lot of training programs do not really talk about. Like they will talk about these some of these topics in psychology circles, and we'll touch a little bit about, what God's word has to say about some of these things. But we're gonna go into more, awareness into action and from awareness to action, I mean. But and so, part of this is like what's really special about our program is in our teachings is that it's very trauma informed. I'm an overcomer, and I've done a lot of research on this aspect as well as just, applied it with my own training program, and also just, seeking God for a lot of wisdom and guidance on the matter. So we're going to take a look at some of these topics about, you know, our own responses and our own behaviors, and how that also shapes the experience of the training. And we're going to touch a little bit about that, from a trauma-informed perspective. Okay, so now we'll start with this. Okay, so in part two, in part one, we explored how understanding your dog psychology builds connection and trust. And we did just recently upload part one. So we will send out an announcement about that in the community. But in part two, we will turn that insight into daily action, shaping routines, responses, and leadership habits that bring peace and balance into your home. And this section focused mostly on how consistency, empathy, and faith-inspired patience creates lasting transformation in both the dog and the trainer. So energy speaks louder than words. And, with dogs, they're reading your body language and emotional energy before the verbal commands. A lot of trainers will start with actually like commands with the body language before they even do words. And as we saw in a previous lesson about, how trainers would use their body to kind of make space at the doorway so that the dog wasn't like bolting and dashing out the door. These sorts of types of things, we can kind of reflect on, as well as, different hand signals that we've given our dogs in terms of commands. Um, but, with tension, fear, frustration in you, it creates uncertainty in them, and that's, I think, something that can go back and forth, right? It can be a very positive thing where, you are shaping the dog's behavior to be an emotional support dog. And so they're recognizing things and responding in a certain way, as well as with, psychiatric service dogs. But, it can go the other way, right? They mirror your state of mind, and your steady leadership helps them feel safe and focused. And so, as we gain more confidence through training and through every day, just applying some of the lessons that we're learning, keeping a journal, staying active in our community, and and keeping on point with some of the goals and sharing our goals, we'll start to gain that confidence. So things will get to be a lot smoother in certain ways. But definitely, there's always bumpiness in the training experience. So what a trainer insight we can think about right now is calm, confident energy builds trust faster than treats, right? Of course, your dog would not say something like that if they could speak, right? But that's the truth, right? And we see this, like there becomes a point where, some people are like, oh, I'm treating my dog too much, they're gonna get spoiled. And it's like, no, they're not, because eventually you're just gonna be calm, confident, and they're just gonna respond to that, and they're just gonna respond to that praise, that yes, good, that kind of marker, confident tone and feedback. But and particularly when we speak about psychiatric service dogs, or service dogs in general, because some of them, our emotions and our bodily systems are connected. So even with the service dogs for seizure alert or glucose, they will also be reading the emotions, the emotional cue, the biological cues that are occurring in your body. And they may interrupt anxiety spirals by nudging, applying pressure, or grounding their handler. You see a nudging quite a bit too in other responses, when they're trying to alert their handler to something. So it can be more than just anxiety, right? Like we touched upon some other conditions where the dog can nudge them to kind of warn them, kind of interrupt what is happening in the moment, so that person can get their medication, or um, you know, you can start to ground yourself, right? Whether with the dog or through your own mind, body, spiritual practices that are helping you to ground yourself before the anxiety uh, attack, becomes severe. The panic attack becomes a panic attack, or the depression, the melancholy turns into another depressive episode, or PTSD, um, or the what is it called? The complex PTSD, right? Which is more emotionally driven versus, memory and triggering flashbacks, right? So we can see this all coming and connecting, right? And understanding your own energy helps you reinforce these natural responses. And, it is a learning process for many of us who are overcoming trauma, whether that's physical trauma or emotional, psychological trauma, childhood trauma, to understand our own energy, our own thinking patterns, our own behavior and psychological responses, our emotional responses. So this is an ongoing, um, understanding. So we want to keep that in mind. We want to be gentle with ourselves, and we also want to know that we're learning about it. We're gonna keep getting more insight about how we respond and that sort of thing. Um, okay, so let's talk about the power of routine and predictability. We are going to come out with some more. I've been working on it recently, but we're going to come out with some more, handouts and documents that are going to help people with their routines and having a predictable lifestyle. Doesn't sound glamorous, but let me tell you, it helps you tremendously. It is one of those things that it just builds upon other things in your life, and you gain a lot of confidence, and it's a skill set, it's a mindset, and we're going to really focus on how that relates to the training your dog. But this builds upon other things, because we're going to touch upon this a little bit. But what I hope with the documents is that would be something supportive that you can have, handheld throughout your day, that you can reference when it comes to creating a routine, and having your dog understand that you are predictable, and with when it comes to routines. So, structure builds security, not only just for the dog, but for ourselves too, right? Any of us who've overcome childhood trauma, parents who were like rageful, you know, addicted to work or addicted to gambling or addicted to alcohol or drugs, there's a lot of chaos, and sometimes in that recovery journey, um, chaos seems normal, but we start to realize that those coping mechanisms and that understanding, that way of being, we've outgrown it. It doesn't serve us anymore. It hurts us actually if we kind of keep leaning into this, uh, understanding or desire or way of being in the chaos, and coping with that. And so that's why a lot of people in psychology circles, in drug rehabilitation circles, addiction circles, and trauma-informed circles are going to constantly, reinforce building up structures in your life, building up routines, building up boundaries, and this creates like a security, a very firm foundation for you to excel more in life. And so that totally applies to dog training. Routines help your dog and anticipate outcomes and reduce anxiety. uh, Service dogs, emotional support dogs, your best friend, your coach. I call Ivory my coach. I call her many things, many positive things, but whatever you want to call your dog, they thrive on predictable patterns. It allows them to stay alert and confident while sensing when their human is in distress, right? So it makes sense, like if the environment is very chaotic and unstructured, it's harder for them to sense when your internal state has is changed and that they need to kind of like alert you or start to work with you on that. Or even respond to your commands too, right? If there's a lot of chaos, sometimes it's harder for them to really, you know, respond in a way that is very regular, right? um, or to cut through the chaos. So some simple routines would be that reinforce trust, morning walks, then it leads to breakfast, then a reset, right? So in one of the things that we really encourage everyone to do is do a morning walk. Even if you have a backyard, don't think that the dog going out in the backyard is sufficient. It is not. Even in your own journey, a morning walk, we got to have this. We got to get the blood flowing. We got to get that dog worn out, right? Exercise. You need the exercise. They need the exercise. It helps with anxiety, it helps with depression. People, they've seen it that people just keep the weight off, because they're putting in certain amount of steps and it's relaxing their body, right? The walking is relaxing. It's not as stressful, right? So people under a lot of stress, sometimes they'll apply themselves really hard at the gym. They'll do the high intensity interval. They'll do this and that, and that can be good, but up to a certain point, if your body and mind is already stressed, the stress increases, and sometimes it backfires, right? Where the morning walk, that can be something that grounds you every morning. I got to do that. I do that with my dog. We enjoy the morning walk, and during the morning walk, one of the structures is you walk part of it and then you like halfway through or a little bit halfway through, um, you practice your leash walking, your good leash walking. You use the long leash in the beginning so that both you and them can enjoy the walk and they can sniff around, get some exercise, and then you can practice the heel. Then you can practice the stay because that energy has been released, right? Then breakfast comes, they get rewarded with food, right? And then rest and reset, right? So they rest, and also, you feel refreshed, right? Another example is daily mental enrichment, training, sniff walks, puzzles. Okay, sniff walks, like I mentioned in the beginning, like in the morning, um, having that structured part where you're walking the long leash, they're sniffing, it's very leisurely, you're not, you guys aren't running, you aren't, it's just them, they're sniffing, you're walking, you're being mindful. I like to also have her do a little sniff walk break, kind of in the midday when I'm working. I'll structure some time. I'll do a batch of work and then I'll, take a break, make sure that I get some sun, right? And that is really relaxing. And it's just a very simple, like 15-minute break, little sniff walk, um, puzzles. Dogs enjoy puzzles and also, adding in the training, little training moments throughout the day, as we spoke about in leadership in everyday moments, that series where, we talk about how you can take everyday moments and do a training session, and eventually they just become um more consistent about their boundaries, the boundaries you have with them when it comes to meals, when it comes to the door. Consistent sleep and feeding times, applies to dogs, but also can apply to humans, right? Um, and so this is something that, I've learned to work with Ivory about. And because I refused, I didn't believe that I needed a bedtime, but she showed me I need a bedtime. And my body also spoke to me and said, I need a bedtime, a consistent bedtime. Because it's one thing that some of our people in our community are going to notice, coming from a trauma-informed background as overcomers, is that sometimes we will get on a roll. We'll get on a roll, like maybe we've been struggling with depression, struggling with something. And then we'll get on a roll with something for a day or two, and we'll think, "Oh, this is great. I'm on it. Like I've got the dopamine levels, I've got the energy. I'm gonna keep pushing, push, 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 push." And they push, and then they stay up late several days in a row. Then they don't sleep as well because they have to get up at a certain time. And then comes the crash. And then it takes a few days to get out of that crash. So a lot of the recommendation is to keep that sleep schedule, keep keep the sleep time at the same time and try to wake up at the same time. Now, if you're a follower of Jesus, sometimes the Lord is going to call you to pray late and wake up early and pray and things like that. So I'm not talking about that, because if he leads you into that, you got to be obedient, and he will give you supernatural grace and energy and favor when you do that, and it strengthens your discipline. But I'm just speaking on a general basis. And one thing I did notice with Ivory is that once I started to set an alarm, and this alarm had a different tone than other alarms, like my wake up alarm, but this alarm had a tone that was very kind of relaxing. And I would set that alarm about an hour and a half before my bedtime, right? And so that kind of signaled me, okay, whatever I'm doing, I kind of need to wrap it up, and I need to start into my evening routine of starting to relax and things like that. And I also tethered that with her, a little play session, where I just kind of you know, play with her, a little bit with one of her squeak toys and her little bully stick, and kind of get her revved up. And then she just gets interested in the bully stick. And then after, you know, 5, 10 minute session of playing together, she's just all about the bully stick. So that structure for me, um, doing the alarm where she hears it, and then knowing that, okay, there's a play session that's going to occur. And then after that, I say night night, and she goes to her bed, and I'm supposed to get ready for bed and go to bed, right? And that has helped me out a lot, because there have been times where maybe I lose track of time even after the alarm. And then she comes to me, and she'll come and she's like, hello. I mean, she doesn't say that, of course, but she's like, hello, like it's bedtime. And before, I was very savvy with training her. I did not realize that she was trying to get me to come to bed, like way back when I first started training her. So she would come to me, and it would be like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. She would like come, and she'd be nudging me. And I'd be like, oh, I'll be there. I'll be there. I'm coming home. I'm coming to bed soon. Don't worry, don't worry. She would come back, and then after the third time, she's done. Like she's done telling me, okay, it's time to go to bed. Like it's way too late. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. Like It's way too late. So this is an example where you can implement that training. You can start with yourself, and then they will start to catch on through positive reinforcement. And of course, feeding time, we've mentioned that in our class about leadership in everyday moments when it comes to feeding. So review that video, and also, drop it in the chat of any questions you have, that we might have missed when it comes to feeding times and when to do that. And one thing I did do some research about, which was how to maintain uh, a good energy mental state, how to maintain high dopamine levels, more specifically for people who are overcoming, depression, um, low energy, even addiction, because certain addictions mess up the brain chemistry. But it's in making sure that, you know, even if you're going to fast in the morning, try to make sure that that meal comes at a certain time so that you keep that energy going, as well as hydration. Hydrate as soon as you wake up, hydrate, have some water, and then have your caffeine later, and then have your meal, and having meal times, keeping that structure. Because I used to be that person before I had a dog where my meal times were not structured, and I could see that I was ebbing and flowing, burning out, being hyper burn, so consistency always wins. So and then schedule calm time for grounding and reset, and this is a good thing to do. Like, one thing that has helped me is actually setting 3 parts of my day where I have a moment to schedule calm time and grounding and a reset. That is more rooted in my spiritual practices, but I bring Ivory in certain elements, like we talked about the morning walk, the afternoon, little sun break, where you're just kind of mindful in your body and you're out enjoying the sun. She's sniffing. And in the evening portion that we just touched on is like, getting ready for bed and having that calm, grounding time, the spiritual time. And there is a spiritual secret to this. The three times a day, the spiritual calming, the grounding. We see this in the book of Daniel. Daniel had a spirit of excellence, and when you read in that book, one of the things he did was he was um, very consistent about, praying to God 3 times a day. And so, like, that was the way that he was able to ground himself and to be excellent in the things that he was doing at that time. And it calms you when you are spiritually connected. It calms you. Okay. Emotions are contagious, right? We know this, right? Your emotional state shapes your dogs, and anxious humans often raise anxious dogs. I mean, we know this. We know this. We know this. And so, as a leader, we want to, also reflect on our own anxious states, right? Peaceful trainers raise peaceful companions. As overcomers, we recognize emotional states without labeling ourselves. We can say, oh, I'm in a state of fatigue, or I'm in a state of hypervigilance, or I'm feeling frustrated right now. These are all signals, right? Or I'm feeling down right now, or I feel like I'm having a depressive moment, without saying, I'm lazy. I'm a lazy person. Oh, I'm this or that. Whatever labels, labels are important in a clinical setting, in a legal setting. We know this, right? And that's between you and your professionals that are working with you on that, or your wisdom or God. But in our community, we want everyone to just keep their imaginations bigger than what they are thinking right now. And labeling can sometimes cap that. So, being aware of that, like, what is that state I'm feeling? What am I feeling? Versus, you know, I'm this, I'm that, I'll always be this or always be that, or this will always be my reality. Those are very strong things. So let's reflect on something. What energy do you bring into your dog's training time? And when you're not training, right? Notice your tone, your posture, and presence throughout the day. Are you showing peace, patience, or pressure? Awareness outside of training helps our dogs trust your consistency and to feel secure in your leadership. And also in our body too, like noticing not only just the posture, but even like aches and pains, right? Tension. Um, these things really do affect our training and our relationship with the dog. So let's take a look at a few examples of anxious energy in dogs, right? You might already know this, right? Um, Pacing, circling, repeating with no clear reason, excessive barking or whining, especially when left alone, consistently licking paws or chewing on objects, um, panting even when it's not hot or not after exercise, um, ears pinned back, the tail's tucked in, they're trembling, the fur on the back is kind of raised up, um, avoiding eye contact or hiding, overreacting to sounds or sudden movements, jumping, pulling on a leash, struggling or struggling to settle down. And sometimes people don't realize this, but we've seen this in some of our clients, but dogs sometimes poop or pee indoors, even after being potty trained, even when they know they're not supposed to do it, even if they have a doggy door, even if they have the pee pee pads or something, or they're in the crate, because sometimes they're sensing the handler's stress, inconsistency, or frustration. Remember, it's not defiance. They're not they're not doing it to spite you, guys. That's like a human hierarchy level of emotion, spite, and that kind of thing. It's a sign that they're mirroring emotional tension, uncertainty in the environment. They don't know when you're going to come home to give them a break. They don't know, when is the next time you're going to be able to spend quality time with them. Um, so that's a good one to remember. Now, examples of human energy that could possibly confuse your dog. Sudden movements or inconsistent commands. Um, that could be either, you know, an inconsistent command could be like maybe you keep switching the word, right? I've been guilty of that. I've had to be very careful about like being very consistent with the word. And even inconsistent commands and the follow-up to it, right? Not always saying yes, marking it with a yes or a treat or a praise. You know, Sometimes you got to continue to do that to have that command very consistent, to be consistent with your command because it's not just the command, but it's like what happens afterward, right? Because otherwise, if we don't attach the two, then we're missing what is the whole process, the whole cycle, right? Um, Over talking or giving rapid corrections when nervous, um, withdrawing emotionally after mistakes, you know, sometimes it happens. Sometimes we get really frustrated. Practicing obedience when tired or dysregulated, inconsistent morning routines or walks, negative tones that do not encourage good behavior. An example is calling your dog to come and yelling when they delay or ignore. And that can create confusion and fear later. It's not a positive reinforcement. It teaches them that the come uh, predicts frustration instead of praise, right? So that kind of like example of tone. Um, Moments of trainer frustration, sighing, tense posture, raised voice can make sensitive dogs anxious or hesitant to try again. Learning to pause, breathe, and reset helps both handlers and dogs stay connected. And you can always resume the training session later, right? Like we can always reset ourselves. So, we can say, okay, I'm not going to give up today. I'm just going to pause. I'm going to reset, and I will come back to this training moment maybe after dinner, right? maybe before bed, maybe after the next walk. We can do that. That's why I think it's very powerful to have that structure throughout the day where you have the morning session and then you can have some other sessions built through your everyday lifestyle. And then so that way, if something doesn't go well in one of those sessions, well, I've got another chance to get that volume of training back up. Trauma, rescue dogs, and healing. Many dogs carry fear or trauma, and so do many of us, right? And we're here to support you. We're here to, encourage you, right? And like we've mentioned before, because the Peace Dog community, the values is rooted in the fruit of the spirit, love, gentleness, patience, kindness as being some of the values, right? We've mentioned before, force-based methods can re-traumatize both. People don't talk about that. They just talk about, oh, okay, can re-traumatize the dog, or they, oh, okay, force compliance, they're doing what you ask them to do, so it's a win-win. It's like, no, no, it's not. Maybe to you, okay? Like, I don't want to debate people on that. Like, if that's what you really believe, that's great. But if you're here, part of the community, like, this is the stance we take, and this is our value, right? Being gentle with ourselves, right? So trauma-informed training also thrives in community, so when you're joining us with the Train with Peace Dogs, when you're in the community, we help you to stay accountable. We support you with our values, right? We all stick to the values of the fruit of the spirit values, with gentleness, patience, faithfulness, kindness, love. So while you and your dog grow together, and engaging with others in the Heartbeat Chat community brings encouragement. It reduces isolation and fosters healing through shared experience and prayer. And and if you're not part of the faith-based group, then that's fine, like your own spiritual practice, I'm sure would help you. Um, and but you can always join our prayer too if you wanted to. That's not a problem. The trauma-informed training means moving at your dog's pace, respecting thresholds, and celebrating small wins. Psychiatric service dog model emotional regulation. They don't judge, they ground. So think about this. Patience heals faster than pressure, right? And before we go, just a few for the people who are followers of Jesus, just for a few biblical reflections, and these are timeless wisdoms. In the book of Proverbs is all about a book of wisdom, and I'll just say this one really quickly. He who sows wrath has great understanding. Oh, sorry. He who is slow. There we go. He who is slow to wrath has great understanding, but he who is impulsive exalts folly. Right? So in dog training, quick frustration creates confusion while steady patience grows and allows for learning and trust to grow between the both of you. You know, um, Consistent kindness, even when results are slow, produces deep transformation in both you and the dog, according to Galatians 6, chapter 9. Let us not grow weary while doing good, for in due season we shall reap if we do not lose heart. And that is something really amazing that we can keep in our heart is that there are times and seasons for everything. And so if you feel like you're in a season of frustration, know that there's a season where you will reap the good things that you pour into your dog, the good things you pour into your journey of overcoming. And so lastly, um, we have here the human growth through training. So training your dog mirrors your own healing journey. You'll grow in patience, consistency, and compassion. As you heal, your dog reflects your progress, calmer walks, smoother commands, mutual confidence. And then so back to our values, right? Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness. Training your dog mirrors your own healing journey, and you'll grow in patience and consistency and compassion for not just for yourself, but for the dog and the people around you. You'll see that grow in you. So that wraps it up for part two. And so those of you who are joining us for the open house, you know, join us. Join us in the Heartbeat Chat community. We'll have links posted. Like, share, and subscribe. Join us. We want to support you, and you don't have to do this alone. And we're always taking feedback. So I'm going to wrap up this session, and then we'll take questions from anyone. Hello, Annette.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Yeah, let me stop the screen share here. Oh, oh wait. Oh yeah, I did. I stopped that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you stopped
Oh
the
yeah.
screen share.
Okay.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Cool. Well, we might okay, I do have 6 more minutes on this, but if you have more questions, I will call you. Like last
Yeah.
time.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Um, yeah. I mean, I really don't have any questions right now. But really I agree with what you were saying about training your dog helps your growth, you know.
Mhm.
That's essentially what you were saying, right? Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one thing I kind of look back on, with Rufus I was really bad about and um but I don't know. I'm getting better. I think I'm in kind of in a season of frustration right now, so moving out of this season, so yeah. hmm
That's good. That's good. Yeah, you're moving out of that season of frustration. And what kind of tools do you think you're using to help you move forward in that season?
Oh, well, I don't know, I'm trying to, I would like to, kind of understand a little more about how my food affects my energy, you know?
Mm.
Yeah, uh-huh. Um, and, let's see, uh, I don't know, I'm not sure I know of that many tools that I'm using. I'm just, yeah, I don't know, trying to. I know in the past I was always, very, into, like, working out and, yoga and stuff. I think, just have to admit that, that's not the main tool that I can use anymore, you know. Yeah. hmm Uh, I need to be more organized around here. Have a routine. That's. I
Mm.
mean, I keep. Um, I don't know. I think I still struggle with insomnia. Um, yeah, and well, also like, what was it? Last night I had a sleepwalking episode, which um, I I'm pretty sure that affects my energy levels. In the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. I don't know how to stop something like that. So,
Mm.
uh, talk to my neurologist. He doesn't know anything about it, so yeah. I don't
Mm.
know. And just and of course I am taking all that medicine, that I would really, really like to experiment with decreasing the medicine. I'll
Mhm.
probably have to find another doctor to do that, because my
Mm.
doctor is all about the medicine.
Mhm.
Even
Mhm.
though there have been many times when I've gone without the medicine and been fine, you know. So,
Mm.
yeah. Yeah, but uh sorry, I don't mean to sound like a real downer. I'm just I don't know, t t today I've been very low energy. Yeah.
Mm.
hmm Yeah.
Okay.
hmm just on an up note, Rufus appeared in one of my dreams the other night. Uh,
Yes.
yeah, yeah, so he keeps visiting me in my dreams. Gosh. I contacted the SPCA today, But hopefully I want to get the background check to them so that I can start like volunteering with them, you know,
Hmm.
and possibly, I mean, I don't know how long I should wait, but um, uh, what is it? They have like a doggy day out or something like that, where you can take a dog out for just a day and then yeah, return him. Yeah, so I think that would be nice because I don't know, I keep every time I walk out onto the street and see people with their dogs, I'm just like, oh,
Yeah.
so cute. Yeah. And I do wish I had been better with Rufus, Yeah. Mm-hmm. So,
Hmm.
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, it's okay to express your feelings about him and stuff, and it's
Mm-hmm.
okay to just also like, forgive yourself because I feel like you're still carrying that.
Oh, really? Mm. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you need to just, you know, when you are praying at night, just put that as your prayer point,
Mm-hmm.
just ask God, to really help you with
Mm-hmm.
this
Yeah.
unforgiveness and, help you with this sorrow.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think he's trying to do that through your dreams,
Oh.
giving you these dreams of
Mm-hmm.
Rufus to kind of like show you that,
Mm-hmm.
that he loved you very much and, there were many good times and we can just savor the good times, like it's okay to let go of things that we might have, you know,
Mm-hmm.
done wrong.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
you've already, and maybe it helps to just repent to God and just be like, God, I repent for not stewarding what you gave me properly. Because maybe
Mm-hmm.
that's the deep root of it,
Yeah. Yeah.
and ask for him to heal you and cleanse you because,
Mm-hmm.
as a follower of Jesus, he says there's no condemnation for those who
Yeah.
walk upright, and not of the flesh. So if you're seeking God, if you're